You doing today?
Good, man. I hope you had a good weekend, Howard. It looks
Yeah.
like it was a fairly quiet weekend, unless you were in the crypto pits where Bitcoin took off. I'll leave it to the crypto guy here. What was going on over the weekend?
Just like we've talked about, catch-up game, MicroStrategy bought more. We saw Michael Saylor had a tweet out. We should find out today for sure. But, also important to point out, MicroStrategy joined the NASDAQ 100. So
Yep.
again, he's been out doing his victory lap here over the last, 24, 48 hours. With that will be interesting. MSTR was up about 3.5% on that news, but Bitcoin, yeah, it broke 105. 1065, excuse me,
Yeah.
and just continues to run. As I've said to a lot of people, I wouldn't play catch up at this point. It's one of those ones that at this point, um, you just don't want to do that. You just don't want to be playing catch up. There's just too much momentum behind it right now, and we're seeing it across crypto, not just Bitcoin, Ethereum holding up at 3,900. Um, Solana 214. They're all down a little bit today after taking a big move up the other day. And what I'd say is for most of the alts is they're holding these gains. We see a day where something like Cardano jumps up 18% to a Doge. And what it is they're not giving back that 18%. They're giving back 3% and then holding in those
Mhm.
levels, similar to what we've seen with Bitcoin. So pretty good look there. Man, SMCI on the other side of that, Steve, huh? Just, leaves the NASDAQ 100 and down, another 12% here today. Does this become a buy at some point?
SMCI has their problems. Let's be honest. I don't think I would touch SMCI right now. They need to get through their issues. Accounting issues are very important. We need to understand the true numbers,
Yeah.
the nature of the accounting issues. Was it nefarious or was it something that just was a mistake? But when your accountants leave, they usually do that because they're concerned about their own problems and they don't want to cause any more issues. So no, I wouldn't touch SMCI just yet. I think I would wait on that a little bit.
Yep, I
Um,
can't argue there because you also, I mean, remember you got downside here. It went down as low as 17 and change,
yeah,
there. So that's what scares me is, it's made that nice move up, but man, it wouldn't take much more bad news, right, to probably send it back down towards that 17 level. So we will definitely keep an eye on that. Other movers, of course, are most of the crypto stocks.
yep.
Um, based upon that, I see, MSTR, like I said, up about 3.76%. Coinbase up another couple of percentage points. Robinhood up 2.61%. Mara. Mara's one to keep an eye on. I don't know if you saw that. I've been over that one. They are the biggest of the Bitcoin mining companies, and Fred Thiel, Peter Thiel's brother, very much Bitcoin maximalist, like his views and what they do. Michael Saylor is now pumping them that they will be the next crypto addition to the
Yep.
NASDAQ 100.
Yeah.
And because they have adopted the same thing, they are using a Bitcoin treasury strategy. So, just one for those that are looking and saying, MicroStrategy, excuse me, at 400 might be a little rich for me. Maybe I want to take a look at Mara in the mid 20s here as a play in that field. So, definitely ones to keep an eye on there. Other ones coming out, mRNA Moderna was dropped from the NASDAQ 100 along with ILMN. So those are the ones that came out. Palantir went in. Palantir not getting much of a bid. I mean, it's already done everything, and this was
That's probably done. Yeah.
I mean, this one was baked in. For those that don't know, they actually moved to the NASDAQ from the New York Stock Exchange with the idea of getting listed on the NASDAQ 100. So this one,
Yep.
that's probably why we're not seeing a move there. It's more of the sell the news, right? On that. Steve, oil, we're seeing it sort of top off in that 70 level, especially after China's, lack of real movement there in their retail sales and just their economy in jail. A little bit of a downgrade over the past week there. Um, we'll talk more. I'll talk more with Stephen Flanagan at 10 o'clock about it. What I did finally see is the 10-year, 30-year, 22-year, I mean, the 2-year all starting to cap off after they continued to rise last week, even after data was pointing us towards a interest rate cut here this week by the Fed. which is what everyone's sort of waiting on this week, is Wednesday's Fed outlook. Is this what you sort of expected to see now? We'll see a couple of days of it sort of flatten out a little bit on those treasuries.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to see the Fed Wednesday say we're going to cut another 25 basis points. There's a couple things that's interesting over the weekend that happened. We talk about this, right? One of the things that I saw was Germany. Germany is really their economy is really not doing well. You saw where Christine Lagarde and Janet Yellen kind of both saying, "Hey, we messed up. Okay, let's fix the problems. We know we messed up. Janet Yellen's out. Christine Lagarde's still in for a little while. Germany's having a problem." We don't want to see that. Our Fed is saying we don't want to see those same problems. So, and you have a new administration coming in that's saying we don't want to lower rates anymore. So the Fed's going to lower rates one more time, and I think they're going to say something to the fact of, "Hey, you know what? It is time. We've done your favor for you. We've lowered rates. We've kept the economy going a better. We are the best now in the world economy-wise. China over the weekend, Xi Jinping infused even more yuan into the system. The renminbi went through again. And look, let's be real honest here. If we're going to get down to the nitty gritty and we're going to look at the economy as a whole in the next 4 years, we're going to have to be prepared for no more no more rate cuts, and whether we have a rate hike, I'm not so sure. But we have an economy that's doing quite well, boosted. But we have an economy that's coming in, the new administration, that's saying three things. The first thing they're saying is we want to help the banks. So we want to shore the banks up. And the only two ways to do that is put more money in the banks, what China did, which was not a good thing because then inflation goes up and all the bad things that go around it happens. The second thing that they wanted to do because they want to move manufacturing back to the United States. And that doesn't happen overnight. It takes a little while. So they're going to put tariffs on, they're going to put sanctions on, and they don't work. So this is a 1980s economy in a 2024 year. So there you go again. And the third thing I think that this new administration wants to do, and I kind of applaud them for it, is saying let's take a look at the actual economy and let's see what's going on, and let's back away from the old policies of not letting M&A go through within the FTC. Let's take another look at why we're seeing these housing markets issues that are happening right now. Why renting is going sky high. They want to help out there. But this economy, the separation of the haves and the have-nots are going to get really, really big. Poor people are going to get poor, the rich are going to get richer. So, this economy is not going to work for everybody. We know that it didn't last a lot. That happened the last time either. But I will say this much: look, Quasar Markets is sitting right in the middle of it, and it's going to be a crypto boom, and we're going to continue to see that crypto boom. And Howard, you're going to be right in the catbird seat talking about it the whole time. So this economy is pointing to a digital economy.
Yeah, you can't argue with that. More and more of a intersection between DeFi and TradFi is going to come.
Yeah,
And evolve. And as AI continues to be more and more the talk of the day, they were talking about Claude today, I think it was on
yeah.
CNBC. I'm not that familiar with that one. But they were talking about how people are using it for relationship advice. That seems a little interesting, but that's what we're coming to. What they're talking about is that AI, it could replace people's friends even. So, I thought that was an interesting one there. So, and part
For
of it
those of
being
you who don't know, Claude is based on Anthropic, which is Amazon. So yeah, I can see what's going on here when you're looking at if everybody, and including our own home, has Alexa in the house. Here it goes, Alexa turns on. But if you're talking to your machine for relationship advice, then there's more mental issues here than you think about. Um,
Listen, man, this younger generation, they're different than us. I laughed at it, but listen, I can see it the same way though we would have said,
I'm sure that my wife probably likes Claude probably better than me.
yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, listen, sometimes, yeah, yeah. It was an interesting thing because they went over a lot of different stuff, but they were talking
Here's
about
a
it
big
funny.
one for you. And I think you and I talked about this morning. SoftBank's CEO is making a pilgrimage to kiss the ring down in Mar-a-Lago today
Yeah.
with a $100 billion investment. Talk to us a little bit, Howard.
Yeah, so SoftBank, Japan, one that is what we would consider almost a private equity fund here in the U.S.
Yeah.
There, it's called a trading house. They are going to kiss the ring, and there's a lot of people I wanted to bring up that are starting to kiss the ring. Right?
Yeah.
We see Amazon's giving $1 million, and what I wanted to bring up, Steve, is the reason I want to bring it up. You and I have been in D.C. a long time, and what's one of the biggest takeaways you have that they mend fences quickly, right? And you could talk more about this. Is what happens is companies realize they still have to do business, right? And
You
what
know,
they
it always
do,
reminds.
yeah, is so you're gonna see, everybody talks about like, whenever one side gets in and the other side's out, we're gonna see this doomsday of everything. No, what we see is, a little bit of butt kissing, right? And then
It
everybody,
reminds me of.
a little butt kissing, a few steaks at the Palm,
That's
with
right.
Barry Pat back in the day,
I'll
and
see her on Christmas. Actually,
yeah,
you
and
know, it's
everybody's
interesting.
happy.
It's interesting, Howard, when people always ask me about Washington D.C., and I always say, look, I'll tell you the best way to explain Washington D.C. to everybody, and it's the old Wile E. Coyote cartoon where Wile E. Coyote and the big bad wolf go at it all day long, and at the end of the day, hey John, hey Bill, how are you? Let's go have a drink and let's go have a meal
Yeah,
together and hang out, and then we
absolutely.
fight all day. And the truth of the matter is, that's how it's always been, and it's not just
And it's
indicative of
like
the
that
United
with
States.
our elected officials a lot of times.
Yeah,
Again,
they're
coming,
actually all friends, to be
yeah,
honest. Most of
most,
them are friends.
yeah, there are ones that don't. Like, you're not going to get Ted Cruz and Elizabeth Warren in for a cocktail, a happy hour
No,
somewhere, but in general, yeah, they have to work together. That's what the job is. And we see it. So I just wanted to say that because I see this fear sort of mongering going on a little bit. And, these companies are going to be destroyed. And, even for as vindictive as we have seen the president elect be, that's not how he does business because he wants $1 million from Amazon for his inauguration. He wants the biggest and the best. He wants to have these connections to these people, and they need it for the government to move on. The other part that I did see though is, and what they do is they find common ground, right? So SoftBank,
yes.
perfect example. They say, what has been the president elect, one of his big things? We are going to run AI out of the United States. We are going to be the technology leaders. That money is going to be directed, or SoftBank's investments going to be in AI. They said quantum computing, chips, all those areas that our president elect has talked about that he wants to grow. So, and that's what you're going to see. The common ground comes out. So,
So
maybe
let's talk about that a little bit, Howard. You're talking about common ground with AI. Here's something over the weekend that was very interesting to me. Vladimir Putin had a big speech, and he talked about how he wanted Russia to be the leader of AI. And Trump is saying he wants to be the leader of AI. And Xi Jinping said last week that they want to be the leader of AI. That should tell you the three biggest powers on the planet all want to be the leaders of AI. So, where do you think AI is going to go?
through the move. I mean, it's just
Through
going
the
to keep
roof.
going.
That's right. And
Yeah.
we're only in the first inning. And that's why you're seeing Masa-san saying, okay, you know what? My bet is going to go on the United States, not on Russia and China, who didn't invent it. My bet of $100 billion is going to go towards AI in the United States. So
Well, and
AI is
that's
going to be a
like you
leader.
said. I think this also, reinforces the idea of while we might not have the best relationship with certain countries going forward, we talked about this, and especially with Stephen Flanagan, is that Donald Trump does have allies around the world that people forget he's close with, Japan being one of them, because we provide that protection that they want from China and Russia.
Right.
So that's why we see this. So it's important to point out while there might be a little bit of a shift in the, so to speak, the world order, the bottom line is we stay at the top and we just bring up the people. It's just a different crew that we're bringing up with us to the table, is the way I think I would look
You
at
know
it.
what? It's interesting you say that because here's the thing. When you have three major powers all saying we want to be the AI leader, well, that the question I have to ask is, what does that actually mean? Does that mean that AI, as in ChatGPT, becomes the leader? Does that mean Anthropic becomes the leader? Is it Llama? Are we going to have 5 million different AIs like we have 5 million different cryptos?
I think
How
we
is this
will for a
going to make?
short term, and then half of them will fail. Like the .com, like the first crypto IPO phase, like everything else. Yeah, I do think we're going to see it. Well, and we've seen that too over the weekend. One thing I'd bring up too is, have you noticed how the mega social media companies starting to band together against big tech to try to work together. Hey, we're going to do the, since Apple, you're now working with Chat GPT and doing this. Guess what? I'm Meta and I'm going to work with TikTok and we want to share
And
our
that's what
powers.
we've been saying, Howard, the whole time. I've been saying, I'm like, listen, Apple has not been the company that's been leading in the technology space. They haven't been. But
Although
now
I
they're
do have
starting,
something for you there too, Steve. I don't want
and
to
they are,
interrupt you.
before you said that, but they are actually doing that because they said, you know what, we can't beat AI. So you know what, we can call it Apple Intelligence, but you know what we're going to do? We're going to partner with ChatGPT. That is brilliant. That's how US manufacturing, retail, and business work together. That's exactly how it should happen. Look, and I can see this growing fast. I even saw over the weekend where Apple was going to make an iPad Pro that's foldable, so it gets really big. That's the kind of tech that we want to see, not this past where we just make the screen bigger. Let's actually create technology and get back to what we do best, right? And I think that's one thing Trump has been saying over the last, well, I guess in this case, the last 2 years for the campaign, and now putting it into place. Look, even Elon Musk over the weekend said, that the plan here is to go to the Mars. The plan here is to land back on the moon with Artemis. Technology is coming back. So you know what? If we're going to lead, and Masasan's investing, and Apple's investing, and Microsoft is investing, and Facebook is investing in Llama 3.5 now. There's a lot of things going on, and I think the future looks pretty bright actually here in the United States.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I do think for businesses, it's going to be a good stage. Like I said, the difference is going to be, as you said, is the haves and the haves not. That separation is going to come, and that's what Quasar Market's here for, to bring to the common day person, this advice so you can get into the markets, so you can start to put away money because the markets, I think, are going to soar over the next 4 years. In general, he will do anything he can to make that happen. We've seen it in the past. So you want to be part of that, whether it's in small increments of your 401k, IRAs,
Yeah.
whatever it may be that you are investing, because you're going to need that if you want to keep up with
And Howard, I
inflation
mean,
and everything else.
you're not going to be part of the new economy if you're not into AI. If you're not using Chat GPT or AI in your general life every single day now. And look, I said the exact same thing when the internet came around. I mean, I sat at a bar reading how to write HTML, and I was told that I was dumb because HTML would never be around. The websites there's nothing going on. The web world will not work. I was told Bitcoin was a joke, a fantasy, internet money, magic money, and now I'm being told that AI is just a fad again. Um, Look, at some point, the magic money and this internet thing is going to be big. Guess what? Here we are. We can't even live in the economy without being on the internet. I mean, my goodness, I couldn't even. I had an issue in my house. My The alarm on my front door was not working, and guess what? I had to use the internet. I had to figure out how to do that, and that's even manufacturing is using AI today. How do I make my lines of more efficient? This is the economy that we live in. If we're not living in that economy, you're going to be behind, and that's what I mean by the haves and the have-nots. Some people aren't embracing AI, and they better embrace it. Some people didn't embrace crypto back in the day. Guess what? They're now paying up for, like you said earlier. People didn't get in the internet at the beginning. Guess what? They had to learn how to send emails. It's not going slower, it's getting faster, and AI is just the beginning, and quantum computing is coming faster than everybody thinks. My god, so fast that we're having to literally put nuclear power plants back online just
Right?
to keep up with the energy. And I overheard Trump talking to Elon Musk, we're going to have to double our electricity output just to keep
Yeah.
up, not for the future, just to keep up with our needs right now. And that's not going to slow down. So, you know what? I think Sleepy Joe might have been right. He wasn't on the last 4 years, and we've been behind. Now he's saying we want to keep up. So here we go.
Yeah, I mean, infrastructure, 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 but in a different way than we're used to in the past.
Right.
We need a digital infrastructure, which is our national grid, for electricity. We have to get back. That's where I will be interested to see if Elon gets involved at all, and I hope he does. Is that's where we have so much wasted energy and stuff that's out there, that we need to try to harness, and we need to get better at it, especially when you get to states like Texas, right, where we've seen the issues they have every year, with their energy
And
grid.
Texas just embraced having Bitcoin as a strategic reserve. I
Yeah,
mean,
I mean, we're gonna see. There's gonna be a lot of talk. We'll see what comes out of all these. What I get nervous is a lot of this is also hype. That's why I try to tamper down certain expectations. These things will come about. They don't happen in one day. It's like the Microsoft. It's not the first time that you bring up Bitcoin to someone that they necessarily get orange pill, as we call it,
well,
and
what do you
do
say to
it.
states like mine, like Florida, they've already started the bill process through the House and the Senate to go to Ron DeSantis's desk, our governor,
Yeah,
to get it passed. And they're talking about it now because Marco Rubio will be leaving the Senate to go work in the administration. That Laura Trump might be our next senator
Senator,
here,
I
Doctor.
saw that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and you don't
yeah.
think she's all about crypto? I mean, she has her own
Her
NFTs.
family, yeah,
So
her family
yeah.
is tied in. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely crypto is definitely going to be, one of the new waves. And again, I think part of it is they see that that's it's a way for the next generation of Trump to make their mark in the world. Is if they control the AI and crypto sort of companies, they'll be in the right spot. I do think, like you said, he's always sort of fancied himself as his version of a banker, J.P. Morgan, all that type of stuff. The art of the deal. And I do think that they realize that what this does is it lowers the barrier to entry to become a multinational bank like their crypto project World Financial wants to be.
Right.
And that's what it's trying to be. It's going to try to be a digital bank, and provide, look, as they say, liquidity around the world. Steve, big week here for the weight loss drugs. The FDA is going to announce this week whether or not there is enough of Zepbound and Wegovy and everything to go around. And where that really matters is for the compounders, because Hims Hers is the big one that's been the big beneficiary of this. Have you heard anything on this? You'd think that they pull it off the list? What's going to happen there?
Yeah, it's interesting. We're starting to see. Let me back up just a little bit here. The UNH United Healthcare issue, the CEO being, unfortunately, the situation there. Um, was denied, and the bullets there were kind of indicative of what's going on, and we're seeing other copycats right now. You're going to start to see where the insurance companies are going to loosen their policies a bit, maybe not deny as much, maybe rethink their policies before they start to just automatically pick somebody off of meds. And one of those meds, obviously, is weight loss drugs. So when you look at it from that perspective, person's overweight, and they're looking to get approved for Zepbound, Manjaro, or in this case, I mean, I think they were talking about. I don't even think Ozempic's really on that list
Now,
anymore.
Wegovy was the other one. That was the
Wegovy,
big.
right? Which is the main one from Manjaro competitor. Yeah, I think you're going to see more approvals of that. And of course, everybody here knows I'm on Zepbound myself, and I've lost 72 pounds as of this morning. Look, that is an enormous amount of health risk that has been taken off the board for me. And yeah, I've said this several times that look, when you look at the future of the compounding and the future of weight loss drugs, I think it'll be just like us taking a pill like a vitamin, or to be mixed into our food like fluoride in water, where we just live this way and we all are a much healthier society. There is something that I saw in the news over the weekend. For the first time in over a decade, you're starting to see obesity pull back. The problems that we are no longer the most obese country in the world now, and obesity issues are coming down for the first time in over a decade. 10 years, the obesity is not growing in this country. It was a massive problem. So yeah, people are going to start to wow, I want to be as thin as our neighbor and I want to look good. Yeah, that becomes cosmetic more than just obesity issues, right? But We are the United States of America, so we're going to make sure that that happens. So yes, I think you're going to see it. Now, is the FDA going to look at the cosmetic side of it or the obesity side of it, or which And when you look at it from the side effects side, the side effects are also coming down as they produce new drugs. And Eli Lilly said they even have a newer drug that's going to be taken orally by pill. I've just been talking about it now. Will be coming and saying, hey, look, there'll be a pill. So the compounders, the hims and the hers, and even my own pharmacy when I first started taking it was a compounder as well, because there was a little bit of an issue getting Zepbound. Um, Look, I don't really care what the FDA does. I just want these drugs to be readily available to everyone. If there's not a situation of lots lots of problems, in this case, there's three main ones, right? Stomach aches, massive headaches, and there's some hallucination actually going on, but I've not experienced any of that. So in those things, I think you're right, Howard. I do think that we will see the FDA kind of loosen the reins, and I think Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk, the two big companies, will probably not be happy campers coming next month or two.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see. I do think it was interesting too. I wonder if that the step that you're seeing with Zepbound from Lilly, where you're going to be able to buy it directly from Lilly Direct, is going to
Mm-hmm.
start to change some of these things that UNH and these other CEOs have talked about, right? Where there's sort of a broken system with that third layer in there and the prescription managers, and how that's working. So I also wonder, is that, do you see that being down the road where you're getting your drugs directly from the manufacturer, like we've seen in most other things, pull out a level of intermediaries out of the mix?
Yeah, it's interesting. Over the weekend, I was reading a story about the state of West Virginia put on Zepbound on their for their teachers and some of their government employees, the ability to automatically approve them if they had a BMI over a certain level of obesity or they were pre-diabetic, and automatically approve them.
Yeah,
Okay. So when they did that, they found that so many people were losing weight, they were getting healthier. And the insurance companies were like, wait, hold up. You're costing us a ton of money. Yeah, we understand. But I think it's a little bit of pain now for the future health, right?
right.
And as I just spoke about it, UNH, listen, people want these drugs and deny that this isn't going to happen. I think you're going to see a lot of possibility here, and I don't like the insurance agencies anymore. I liked them about 6 months ago when they were all making money hand over fist. I don't like them anymore, and that's okay.
Makes
Um,
sense. We are
yeah,
about 2 minutes from open here. I do want to get through a couple of the other earnings and so forth coming up. Ford was downgraded today, big time, by
yeah,
Jeffries and a couple of others. So they're down almost 3% on that news, 2.7%. So I did want to mention that. AVGO continuing to move up. Once it broke that
yeah.
$1 trillion mark, it's continuing to run up
All
almost
the
another
world is happy.
3% today. Um, and then we do have earnings coming up, not today, but this week. We got a bunch of them coming up, Steve. We're gonna and a bunch of big ones. We got Micron on deck, FedEx, Lennar. Um, we got all the big food manufacturers. Conagra is up. Jabil is up. BlackBerry, Cintas, Dryden, Birkenstock, Worthington Steel. Anybody you're looking at this week that's interesting you? Toro, F Cell is one that I have on
ConAgra
my list to watch.
probably, I think they have a lot of processed food. I think they might not do so well as everybody thinks they are. I think that the farmers have an abundance this year. There was no drought. All of the bad weather went towards us. But I'll tell you much. Let's look at those soybean numbers come 11 o'clock this morning. I'll tell you more about ConAgra when I hear the soybean numbers and the corn and wheat numbers as WASDE reports come out. About a 1 minute out. 9:45. Real quickly, we want to make sure everybody understands the PMI numbers will be
Yeah,
coming
first
out. That's
PMI. Yep.
global services, global manufacturing, global services. So I really want to see those numbers this morning. I think I'm concerned. I'm still long Adobe here. As most of you know, I'm still a little bit hurting here. I'm in at 472.30, and we're now at 467. So not too bad. I held all over Friday, so here we go. Opening bell now coming in.
Here we
Um,
go.
yeah,
I am still in my Mara calls. I'm hoping it doesn't shoot up too much today, or it actually will not hurt me. But I make out the best if it stays under 24. So I'm hoping it does that. I'm out of everything else. I will say Mountain had dropped down, Steve. Went to that 187 area. I said 185. Got to 187 area already. So I do think that that did pull back the way I felt it would. So.
Nice. I like that. I just wouldn't go against skiing in a skiing season.
Yep. No, like I said, mine was more. It was a mean reversion off of a jump on a miss on earnings that made it move up. So I
And
just
you had a
felt that.
thesis, and you stuck with your thesis. I have nothing against that.
Tick negative a little bit here. We are seeing a QQQ taking off a little bit here, up 5/7 of a percentage points here. Let's see what we get. 533.57 right now.
Interesting to see Doge under the 40 cents handle there. I don't
I
not
will
not
say
a
that QQQ, as you know, it made it to the top of my measured move on Friday that we talked about, stalling out at that 533.85 area. So that's definitely the area to keep an eye on here. If it can break through that, I do think it moves up towards that 542 area. Spies up about 0.3 of a percentage here this morning. 606.12. Looks like the rut. So small cap has been getting hit here over the last week or so. Bitcoin holding up at 104.391. Just continues to march up. Like I said, I don't know that you see a big retracement on Bitcoin right now.
look, the markets are going to be quiet and slow. We're already to the 16th of the month. We know that we're coming into the end of the year. I'm just, to me, this is the quiet period. I did make a post on Quasar Markets Twitter to see whether or not we were going to have a Santa Claus rally. 70% of the people said yes. For
Everybody's
those
saying.
of
I
you,
saw CNBC did one also. Everybody still thinks that this is coming. And as you said, that starts the day after Christmas, not before. It's a little bit different than what
that's
people
correct.
say. The whole idea is Santa brings the rally. You have to explain to people because they tend to not understand that fully on that. So that's one there. Steve, I was looking that gas dropping down a little bit again. If it hits that $3 again, would you be looking to do something again, maybe a rinse and
Yeah.
repeat? I mean, I think I like that idea. I was doing that, as you know, on WTI off of your 68 number there when we were hitting 68. You could get a quick little scalp in and get out. So I do think that that makes sense. Um, tell
It's
you,
interesting. I've been watching a new show called Landman. I think it's on Paramount.
I couldn't get the wife
Um,
to watch that last night. I tried to. She's not
if
into
you
it.
want to learn about oil,
Yeah.
it's pretty good about understanding the patch, and it's hard to explain Permian Basin. It's hard to explain what goes in the sands, but you know what? It does a pretty good job making it dramatic, making it fun for people. Very very Mad Men slash
Yeah, I want to watch it. I was overruled. I was mad. We picked up a one of those new NCISs. Every
oh
once in a
god.
while we pick out a show that we're gonna sort of binge watch together, and that I lost. I always love a good NCIS though, so I'm okay there. Mag
All right.
7, sort of 6 of the
Yeah.
7 on the upside. Nvidia still getting hit here, 132. Does that ever get to a point here where you like that, Steve?
Nope. I think we need a little let it pull back. It's overjuiced, but I still feel the same way about the company. It's still going to go higher. It just there seems to be a disconnect right now. I will say the one that I still do like, and I've been talking about it for a long time, and I've said it all, is Netflix, NFLX. Look at the puppy at 924. We're going to be at 1,000 next year. I've said this over and over and over again, and we're still pushing higher. So I don't disagree with it.
I actually think Nvidia, if you look at the daily chart there, Steve, might be in a spot for a bounce back here.
Yeah,
Looks
tell
like
me
that.
why. Because I find that Nvidia right now, the servers are having problems. So the
For me, it's just
Blackwell
just
chips.
TA, strictly TA based,
Okay.
and it's found support on one, two, three, four different times since breaking initially resistance that it couldn't break at that 131 area here. If you look back in mid-August, once it finally broke through it in October 8th, it has used this level as support on multiple times and made nice moves back up each of the times. So that would be my reasoning on it based on technical analysis completely.
104.5 right now on Bitcoin. I think we're going back to 105 this morning here.
There, I want to take a look. I haven't looked yet this.
And Kramer's making fun of Bitcoin this morning, so there you go. He cannot help himself, can he? Keep talking bad about Bitcoin, sir.
So what I will point out is you'll probably see a pretty quick, good day on crypto here as IBIT, BTC, GBTC, all of those are playing catch up. All the ETFs are playing catch up here and are outperforming Bitcoin's price this morning. As I said, this is still an early in that discovery area, but it seems to be every time we find that it has led to an up day on
There you
Bitcoin in
go.
general.
The
So
U.S. Navy has cut the length of boot camp amid a rise in recruiting totals. There you go. 105 just popped on Bitcoin. Look at that. We just called it right here on the show. I said we're going back to 105 and kaboom.
and we're
Look
running.
at
They're
that
running.
thing.
It's running. Like I said, Bitcoin just up a little bit, and if you take a look at the ETFs, up 3%, 3%, 3%, 3%. So they are running here. MSTR not getting that big boost that you think you would have saw out of that inclusion in the Nasdaq 100. Doesn't seem to have the same push that we've seen on some of these others here.
We're pushing right past 105 like it's just sitting there.
It's up at 421. It's in an interesting spot for MSTR here. It's sort of a no man's land unless it gets back above 438 here. If it does, though, that would be interesting. So one to watch here as it approaches 440 at 421 right now. Again, this gapped up from about 407 on its close.
And you got to wonder if whether or not Mr. Saylor is still buying down there.
He bought over 100. He announced it over the weekend. He hinted at it. Today we'll find
Yeah,
out.
but
He usually
did
lists
he
it on
buy some
Monday.
more
He
today?
hinted that they made their first purchase at over 100K.
Palo Alto Networks is all over the map this morning. PANW.
Boeing getting hit a little bit here, down about 1.5%.
They
Both
had
the
a
Chinese
super win.
stocks, again, why I don't trust these Chinese stocks is that exactly China tends to give us news over the weekend, right? And when there's very low liquidity to manipulate prices, we see a drop of about 1.5 to 2% across most of the American depositories of Chinese stocks here today. After again their less than stellar economic report there. MU up about 3% here as it's going to go into earnings tomorrow, so we are seeing that. If I take a look at the sectors within the spider system there, looks like we see energy down. XLB, I don't know what XLB is offhand.
Tick up about 200 as the
Materials.
dollar over 107 again.
Nat gas right about that 314 here. WTI is broken 70 at 70.51. Steve, do you think we'll hear anything out of OPEC in the next, month or so here and release some of that oil that they've been holding back?
No, I think OPEC is they need to have a meeting first. They don't really control oil as much anymore. The U.S., China, and Russia control oil more than anybody on the planet. So no, I don't see that anymore.
Coinbase now up 3.5% on the day. So again, we are seeing crypto
105.1.
names all running here. Making Kathy Wood look good, huh?
And that's hard to do sometimes.
Yeah.
Advanced decline lines minus 200. So look, it's stock pickers market today. There's not much here more than that. It's just pretty much stock pickers market.
Yeah, and the advanced declined even worse on NASDAQ, down about 1239, quite honestly. So it's definitely the haves and have nots.
Got about 5 minutes here now until PMI numbers come out, and I'm very interested in those PMI numbers,
And
by the
Steve, you
way.
can really see that based upon what you said, where it's a stock picker's market. If you just look here at the chip sector, Nvidia down 2.5%, TSM up almost 4% today, AVGO up over 5%, AMD down 2.69, Qualcomm down 2.65, Micron up 3.5. You know what I mean? Big swings in between them here. And even if you get to the smaller ones, ASX having a good day, up 2.28%. So it doesn't seem to be done by size there. So a little bit across the board
I mean, for
here.
me, the Dow has had a 7-day losing streak, and that's not normal. So expect the Dow and the Nasdaq to actually continue to push higher today.
Okay, I like that call. E-commerce, same thing, mixed boat here. Amazon up 1.2% today. Shopify up almost 7.5%, 7/10 of a percentage.
105.3 now on Bitcoin. We're going, baby. This thing, I mean, what, man.
It is running. Etsy up about 3% today, so they're seeing some solid movement.
Yeah, I could see Etsy doing quite well during this holiday season.
As we talked about, healthcare still the one getting hit the most. There are some winners here today. Cigna, HCA, and MCK McKesson all up here this morning. But Eli, Elevance, UNH all down. CVS down another 1.5 here. That's one that definitely continues to get beat down here, as we know their pharmacy division gets hurt. Notes
Tesla
and
447 now. I mean, it has not stopped there.
Steve, here's one that you didn't have on your bingo card today. BlackBerry up 12.27% here and running. It leads into earnings, I believe, Wednesday.
That definitely was not on my bingo card.
Yeah, they do earnings on Thursday, excuse me. Earnings on Thursday. Um, and the
Adobe's
news
looking
that's
here.
leading to that is actually looks like they're selling off some part of their company here. They are going to will sell its Silence assets to Arctic Wolf for $160 million in cash. So they are selling off a little bit of their IP intellectual property off to this company, and that has them moving up tremendously here this morning, now up 12.27%. Right about 303, 304. So they are definitely one of the ones making a move so far today. FedEx up about 7.75, 0.8% here this morning. Looks like Nvidia coming off of the bottoms of the day there was down over 2%, now about 1.76. On the other side, Microsoft, which all the other Mag 7 had been up, now into the red a little bit here. Google getting a nice pump here today, up almost 2%. Tesla again up 2% today. 445. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's just unbelievable.
Their price to earnings right now, based on their market caps, 114.45%, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, it's overbought.
That is
I mean,
just
there's no
114.
other way to say it.
Yeah, so you're gonna
Overbought.
earn. Yeah, I just those are the
There
things
is
that
no other way to explain Tesla to anybody. And look, I get it that the software company, you can say whatever you want. The company just is not. Tick is down about 133 here.
ASST getting hit hard here, Steve, down almost 13% on the day right now. Zora, how you doing today? Good to see you. She's saying that Coin Bureau is predicting 108K by the end of the day. I could see that. I mean, like we talked about, what I've been using as a gauge lately to see what it's going to do over the next 12 hours or so has been when the Bitcoin ETFs open up at a positive to the percentage that Bitcoin's up, and it's up tremendously. They're playing catch up, so to speak. So those are definitely things that I keep an eye on there when it comes to Bitcoin.
SOBR has been halted here. SOBR.
I don't know that one. That's not one of my normal pumpers.
Yeah, that's sober safe. Down about 64%. So
Yeah, I don't play the ones on that side of it.
2.21 million shares there. already traded hands.
Let's see if we can see what the pumpers are doing here.
And they're talking about Bitcoin again on CNBC.
Yeah, I mean it's the talk of everything. Let's face it. I saw a great article that had, all of the former skeptics and where they stand now. And outside of your man, Mr. Buffett, who said he won't discuss Bitcoin till his annual shareholders report in like June or whatever his thing is, pretty much all the others have turned around. Jamie Dimon's gone from it's the dredge of society to he still thinks Bitcoin is like has no basis, but he isn't being there. I will say,
Yeah, him
L,
and his daughter have Bitcoin. Yeah,
yeah,
okay.
LA, yeah, he made it clear pro, he is pro blockchain, is what he terms himself. But they had people like Bill Ackerman on there who said, he wished he had done it earlier. Ray Dalio, who I know you always think has a good sense of things, who said they missed out on it. Like I said, it was really Buffett was sort of the last standing LAES, Steve, that pumper that we talked about the end of last week, now at 284. 284. We talked about that at 106 when it broke 106 the other day.
For me with Bitcoin, I had been trading it quite heavily, as everybody knows, and I've been stacking sats quite a bit. If you, I don't want to explain stacking sats again. Um, I'm not stacking sats anymore. I mean, I'm just holding it now. I'm just sitting here. Look, I gained about a third more Bitcoin just by stacking sats, selling at the top, buying back, selling, buying back. I don't feel like I can do that right now because the it's just so bullish right now.
Yeah, it's tough to judge. I mean, you can try to play the game, but you're gonna have to get lucky. You're gonna have to see a
Manufacturing
liquidation.
PMI now coming out at 48.3, expected 49.7. So again, that's below the 50 handle there. Estimate was 49.5, so not good on manufacturing PMI. Services PMI 58.5 versus the 56.1. Last previous estimate was 55.8, so beating on that. So services are better over the 50 handle, which expansion. But global composite PMI now coming in at 56.6 versus 54.9. Estimate was 55.1. So global composite PMI coming up, U.S. manufacturing coming down. So there's what you're seeing. I'm
Tick
trying to
lights
tell
it. The
you.
tick lights it so far. It moved positive as you
Yeah,
were talking there. You talked it up, and it's moved from down about 100 to up about 300 here.
means the
So it
Fed has
does
to cut
seem like
rates.
they like that news. And we do see SPY moving up on the news. QQQ actually slightly moving down on the news, holding fairly steady.
1059 now.
Dow Jones has moved up now to the positive, so we do see it moving nicely. Advanced decline now at a positive 447. I'm seeing, Steve, so we are seeing that stuff move in the right case. Is that Reebok, Ron? I don't know what RBRK is. I don't know that one. Rubric. So we got from Ron Williams here, Rubric running.
That one I don't really know much
Yeah,
about it.
information technologies. Not sure. They just got an outperform from Mizuho. I do see that. Trying to see if there's any other news here.
1059 now on Bitcoin. Yeah, baby.
I see that it surged on federal approval on AI breakthrough 3 days ago. So yeah, definitely a breakaway here, Ron. These are the tough breakaways, though, and you can see I'd be a little cautious here. If you look at the daily chart, I'll focus on a little bit more. You can see it stalled out on the big pump after the news of the regulation at about 75. So you need to see it break through 75 here. If it does, it's definitely one to follow. But 75 is your key area here on Rubric if I was watching it.
10-year now 4.395, 4.4% on the 10-year, pushing up again.
And we do have Mr. Flanagan coming in. I know you have to leave in 10 minutes. I do have that to ask about him. The new French prime minister coming in hours after Moody's downgraded the French economy again, or the their credit standing. So we'll see what's going on there. As I talked about China tried to talk up the stimulus package, but did not do anything to sort of alleviate anyone's investors' fears. As we've seen, most of the Chinese American depository companies move down here. Just let me make sure that's still the case. Bobbing down about 1.46. Baidu down 1.5 or so. So we are seeing that. JD down over a percentage point here. Neo is actually up a little bit, but we are in general seeing those Chinese ones down. UK Prime Minister really talked up their biggest IPO in years was Canal Plus, and it failed miserably on its IPO. So I want to find out what he feels that does to his, UK sort of leading Europe out of the doldrums, maybe, and if that affects it. So a lot to talk about out there. Steve, do you see any way the Fed doesn't go down a quarter of a point this week?
No way, Jose.
Okay.
Look, and we're talking about France. France has been around since 864 AD. They'll be around. The France that we know today was refounded in 1958 after World War II, and the current economy, they're gonna be fine. Look, they have one thing that everybody knows about France, and that's wine and cheese, and people like myself who love France will continue to go to France and will continue to spoil themselves on the Champs Elysees, and we will eat chocolates and bateau mouche. So look, France has France's problems, but they will continue to be France. And so I think people who make fun of France, I get it, I understand it, but they will get out of their problems. They are a world power economy. They are a member of the G7, and so they'll be just fine. How they get out of that problem? Is it because of the new PM? No, probably not. They'll get out of it because of countries like ourselves that will be supportive of France, that have been supportive of France for many, 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 many decades, and will continue because they were the country that saved our butts in Revolutionary War. So look, there would not be the United States of America if there wasn't France. Thank you to Ben Franklin for going over there and having a good time. And
That
because
goes
of that,
both ways. There would be no France without the U.S. either. World War One and World War Two
absolutely
would have gone a
correct,
different
right?
way
And
also.
that's the
So we've
and that's the
repaid that
relationship that
debt.
we have. So don't think that France is going away. And
No, I don't think they're
they're
going away. I think they have a lot of headwinds, and I think they're a downwind to all of the EU at this point. Is
no, I
France?
think I think Germany's worse than France, believe it or not.
They're close. It's close. That's a close battle. I'll have to ask Mr. Flanagan which one he thinks is a bigger disappointment right now, but I would say that he's going to tell you that it's probably both. He's been negative on both
I don't
countries
think
and
either
what they're
one of them are
going.
disappointment. I think Christine Lagarde is the disappointment. She made big mistakes by not lowering rates when they should have, and they didn't do that, and now they're paying it. Janet Yellen said, "I'm sorry." She has not yet said that, so I'm expecting her to also apologize, but she won't.
I don't think she will. I don't think she cares. I think she's like Gensler. She'll go out on her sword and say, "I did what was right, and look how good I did." He's still
And she would be
convinced.
totally
He's
wrong, and the whole
right, but
world knows.
he's still holding by it. He's still convinced that that's the case.
Well, I'll tell you how convinced he shouldn't be is he probably won't get a job when he's done here. Probably be teaching at a university and not in a big firm. So and that's okay by me because he deserves it. Him.
Palantir getting hit pretty hard here, down 3.65% this morning.
Palantir is
Garza,
going to take a little bit of. There we go. Come on, baby. Come on with Bitcoin 106 just hit here. There she goes, right on up through that number, like a hot knife through butter there. Wow, we just blew right through 106. Maybe Zara's
yeah,
right.
when we set new all-time highs on Sundays, we usually retest them for sure. So that is a pretty good bet here as
And you're not
FOMO
taking any
and
profit
momentum.
on at 106 here or 108 here?
No, I'm not. I've told you I am not playing catch up. I've played my games. I have what I'm going to be holding through this for now. If anything, I would be adding, here. So no, I am not a seller of Bitcoin. I will tell you, and we'll go more over it when we have some more time. There has been a huge, huge, huge move of Bitcoin
We're
from
hearing now
the.
reports that President-elect Trump will make a press statement from Mar-a-Lago at 11 a.m. Now we know Masa is actually in
Yeah, I'm
Mar-a-Lago.
sure that's what it's going to be.
Right.
That'll be an interesting one. That will get the markets pumping. What I was going to say there is We're seeing long-term holders, the OGs of Bitcoin, have sold in the vicinity of like 8,500, 8,600 Bitcoin over the last month into Michael Saylor and some of these other folks. So we are seeing that change of hand, happen within Bitcoin between the cohorts there. So the OGs have been selling steady into this, which is why we've seen the slowdowns happen, but it hasn't been enough to stop the new buyers. Um, Michael Saylor again is buying more than the amount of Bitcoin being created every day. So that's, where we've seen these bull runs just take off is where those things happen. The question will be when he stops, what happens when he stops buying, because eventually he'll get through all those hedge funds and um, private equity spots and retirement funds that he's been doing a lot of this, pension funds where he's been getting a lot of these zero percentage rate convertible
I
debt
just
that will
don't
slow
think he's
down.
going to stop. I think he's going to continue to buy. I don't think
Oh,
he's
he's
going to
gonna.
stop.
Yeah, what will happen though will become harder because he's got to raise that money, and his whole thing is raising it with 0% interest and all this whole thing. Um,
And you
and
know what? If the banks want to get into Bitcoin without, they'll give it to him at 0% or very, very low rates. They'll say, you know what, we'll take a little bit of a bite and hope that we'll get our Bitcoin back. And that's a safer play for a lot of banks than having to buy Bitcoin straight and put it on their own ledgers. So I can see that. All
I
right,
will
baby.
say it
There
was
we go.
interesting to
Finally,
see that the
Adobe.
some of the trust companies are pointing out. I saw iTrust was pointing out what you always say: if you want to own Bitcoin, you can do it through them and your IRA, and you actually own real Bitcoin
Yeah.
that's held in a wallet for you, as opposed to the ETFs. So I did think that was there. I don't know, Zora, that it gets back down to 95. It definitely could. I mean, we saw the run from 100 down to 92, but it's going to be one of those liquidation events. So you're going to need to have orders in there if you're going to want to try to catch that. I would not try to do it.
Nasdaq futures are flying right now.
Yeah, tick up 430. Nasdaq up now 7, almost, yeah, 3/4 of a percentage point here. Bitcoin now up 1% here on the day. Um,
I'm holding my ground on Adobe. I'm still long Adobe. I
I
think
did see it was down slightly here this morning.
it's up now.
Okay, there you go.
I'm going to stay long. I'm not going to get away from it. Tick now up almost 500 here.
I
So
will say the big move here, the big change has been in the chips. Now we're seeing more and more of the chips at a positive here than we did earlier. A lot of them moving, especially that mid cap chip area where Marvell sits, SNPS, KLAC, LRCX, all of them moving up here nicely this morning.
Adobe now hitting the highs of the day now.
There you go. Do you see energy sector and industrials, two of the sectors getting a little bit hit here. Everything else seems to be in the green.
Yeah, we hit 106 on Bitcoin. I'm now down to 105.2. I mean,
Yeah, definitely some sell orders in there at those round numbers. As it approaches those round numbers, that's what we tend to see here this morning.
I think one of the things you need to talk to Steve Flanagan today about is my Japanese yen. Did I make the right move there by buying yen a few weeks ago? The dollar still seems to be fairly strong, breaking that 107.15 this morning. I have been bullish on the dollar, the Dixie, but I'm starting at 107. We got to be getting a little high there.
Yeah, I broke through the resistance that him and I had talked about last time he was on, so I will be interested to see if he thinks it makes the move back up to 108 here this morning. That's sort of the area that, he had talked about trying to make one more move, one last move back up there, and we'll see. I do see Mr. Flanagan's in here, Steve. I know you have to leave in
Ah,
1 minute, but let's bring him in while you're still
bring him
here.
in,
So,
go, yeah.
Mr. Flanagan, how are you doing today?
You're on mute
I
there,
don't,
Mr.
you're on
Flanagan.
mute, Steve.
There we go. Sorry
There it
about
is.
that. Doing great. Good Monday. And I hope you guys are doing well as got a tough week ahead. Triple witching on Friday.
Spooky, spooky.
Steve,
Yeah.
so I don't know if you heard. Steve wants to know: did he make a good move buying his yen already that he needs for January, or what do we got going on here as we look
Look,
at
we got
DXY
We
exploding
got
here.
market forces running against us right here. In the bigger picture, yes, Steve's dead on with the buying the yen. You got Bank of Japan coming up on Thursday. Everybody says they'll remain unchanged, but look at the numbers that just came out. Suddenly, we're seeing a perky economy.
Wait a minute, Steve. You say perky economy, but services were up great, but manufacturing PMI was down again. And I think that's why Trump is saying, I want to bring manufacturing back to the United States. Is that right or wrong?
No, you're right. That's right. That's the U.S. I'm on the Japan thing.
Oh, I got you. Okay. So you're telling me that Japan's getting perky over there?
Yeah, we're starting to see a little
Okay.
bit, Steve. You know, at a 0.25% interest rate, they've got every reason in the world to tweak it here by 0.15, maybe a 0.25, although market consensus is Japan does nothing. Hence, you're seeing this dollar yen running up to your 150, 54 and a quarter right now. It's possible to see an extension here, 155, 156, but then you're talking about Bank of Japan intervention. A very easy way for Japan to tweak it is to raise interest rates here by a small amount. What's a 0.5% gonna do,
Not
right?
much. Yeah.
Not much. So you could catch a market totally unprepared here, and Steve, you'll be sitting in the catbird seat then.
Yeah, when I think about it, the old days, Kuroda was a different person than the Ueda. Kuroda, he was always about lowering rates all the time, and he was sticking to his guns. But we have a new Bank of Japan governorship over there, and it's a little bit different. And are we playing it correctly or not? I can't tell the answer to that question yet.
Well, Ueda is he's a student, right? He's an
Right.
academic. He's coming at it with a very pragmatic approach, and he realizes that Japan is kind of behind the rest of the world.
Right.
They can allow this yen to continue to depreciate, but once you get beyond this 155 level, what the prevailing thought is Japan risks bringing inflation into Japan and importing inflation, which
Right.
is something I don't think that they're so much in favor of. So a stable yen is what they want. But if the world starts getting back into this carry trade, which they have been, here we go, another shock to the system here.
And
Yeah,
they
hey,
can't
I
really
called
handle
that
those
carry
shots.
trade, didn't I? I said it was coming back.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
did.
Steve,
Well, I
I
gotta
know
run, boys.
yep.
Yeah.
I knew we had to you had to get out of here to a meeting. Mr. Flanagan, we got a lot to talk about, sir. So I think we got to start off in the UK. I know you're a little bit of an Anglophile at times here. Their prime minister was talking the heck up out of a new IPO, Canal Plus, from the Vivendi folks there, and it didn't do so well. Does that start to worry you? Is they biting off more they can chew?
What worries me is precisely what we are seeing globally is the elected officials disconnect with the reality of the situation.
Yeah.
They talked up this IPO, it was a failure. And what does that mean? They've got no clue. They're trying to talk a good book. Bank of England meets on Thursday this week, and they're expected to hold rates at 4.5%. However, on Tuesday, you have the unemployment number for October coming out in the UK, and Wednesday, you have CPI and PPI. So this is a week. When this week is concluded, it's Christmas and New Year's, and
Yeah.
you've got a 2-week essential hiatus in the marketplace. And you've got a number of events ahead of us right now that could be, a bit of an earth shaker.
Yeah.
I think Bank of England has to cut. I've said that the last meeting and the one before that. They've got to start reflecting reality.
Right.
They've got a 40 billion sterling tax increase across the nation. It's going to take a bite fast, and it's going to slow things down, and either they get out in front or not.
Right. I can't argue with that. It also doesn't Does that not look so great for France too? Because Canal is Vivendi and Canal was a French company that chose to list in London. So I didn't know that was coming up until I started seeing stuff on Friday about it.
Yeah, well, France has their own issues with a no confidence vote. They got a new prime minister now. He's an ally of Macron. So what did that change? Zero,
Zero.
nothing.
Were you surprised by that selection?
I was. I thought he was going to reach across and get somebody more to offset the right and the left that combined for a no confidence vote.
Yeah.
I thought he would reach across the aisle to select somebody that would quell the discontent, and he did not.
Was this him
So
thumbing his nose at sort of Parliament? I mean, I couldn't read this one, and I was a little shocked by that. I really did think exactly like you said. He called the no confidence vote. It went the wrong way for him, and then he basically said, you don't like who I have? Here's another buddy of mine. How do you like him?"
it's tough to comment on that. Let me just say, did you see the picture of Trump meeting Macron and the handshake?
No, I didn't.
Well, you need to look at the handshake.
Okay.
Trump was trying to get the hand on top. Macron was trying to counter it. And no, did he thumb his nose? Yes, he did. Macron has always been aloof
Right.
from popular opinion.
Oh yeah, he
Um,
doesn't care. It doesn't. It doesn't seem like that. You know what I mean?
yeah, and I heard what Steve said, and in the big picture, Steve's right. Of course they'll survive. But they will not survive in their present political makeup. That I
Uh,
will say.
yeah, that was what I was trying to get there out of that, as I think you saw, is that I don't think it's a Greek issue in France where it's gone too far and too far, and there's not enough that France still does make things and does things.
Right.
Where Greece had sort of stopped that. It was hospitality or nothing. um,
Right.
so I do think that that's the case, but I think that again, as we look at sectors and areas and things like that, I think that slows down. My takeaway, and I'd have to ask you is, you had talked about maybe the bottoming coming for Europe in Q1. I think this pushes that back to the end of Q1 a little bit further, personally.
Yeah. In the first half of the year, I'd be happy to say that the bottoming will take place. Germany now, you finally have Lagarde saying that keeping rates sufficiently high and restrictive is no longer warranted.
Right.
Attempting to pat themselves on the back. Yes, they've got inflation down, but it was one of those
At the
full
cost of
speed
their
ahead.
economy, though, at the cost of GDP across all the nations.
Exactly, and that's what happens when you have a singular mandate.
Yeah.
Inflation, and they're not concerned with economic growth. And if you begun to see the comments, though, um, Eurozone growth will take a hit from the U.S. protectionist measures. They're
Oh yeah.
already trying to paint the picture over
Deflect.
here.
They're gonna deflect. Yeah. Come on. It wasn't them. It was us.
That's right. So, but the other thing I did notice that another governing member said on Friday that it would be wrong for the ECB to cut interest rates with the sole purpose of boosting the economy. So, if they're starting to talk out in public about it, the political pressure must be huge on the ECB. They're going to have the longer they take the posture of little increments, the more the European economy is cratering and the more they're going to be forced into an emergency type situation.
Yeah, you can't argue there. I don't know if you noticed, most of the American depository stocks of Chinese companies down after over the weekend they came out with less than stellar retail sales here. Talked about adding liquidity, but again, doesn't seem to be making anyone very confident over there in China.
My view, as I told you the last 2 weeks, is watch China over the holidays coming
Yeah.
out with their stimulus package, catching the whole market off guard. 3% growth on retail sales, which was the lowest in 3 months, but it was 3% growth. It wasn't negative.
Yeah.
But China is a problem, and their day of reckoning, they've got to start moving. You know, Interesting though, the way we've talked about this, the obvious benefactor is the dollar index because the euro
Yeah.
makes up such a large part of it. Sterling's a huge part of it. I read an article over the weekend, though, about the massive interest rate burden is now haunting the $29 trillion of emerging debt.
Oh, wow.
We're almost back to a point. I was hoping Steve would stick around, but almost back to when we had the Latin American debt crisis because US rates went up and everything was tied to the dollar.
Right.
Well, they're grappling in the emerging markets with about an $850 billion interest rate payment.
Oh, wow.
So if rates stay high, you're going to end up, and the dollar stays high, which
Yeah.
seems to be inevitable,
Yeah.
then you're going to end up with an emerging debt problem again. Maybe as 2025 unfolds, that could be third quarter, fourth quarter of 2025, depending upon the central bank's activity early in the year. I feel my view, as I echoed the last time we were on, get it over with, cut
Right.
interest rates. Inflation is down. Month to month, you get these point 0.1 spikes. Stop. If we're going to react on every point 0.1 spike, you know,
We're gonna
so
have problems, yeah, as you said. And what they're gonna do is they're developing that too much of a spread in between the markets too, that you're gonna say send money flying one way or the other. As we've seen, that vacuum effect you talked about starts to come in, right?
that's
Um,
right. They're almost setting up an inevitable,
yeah,
again, because of their short term vision. Because what central banker today has forward guidance? They're all data dependent.
yeah.
Data dependent means you're looking in the rearview mirror, driving the car forward.
Yeah,
Doesn't
it
work.
doesn't make sense there when we see that, it's and as Steve said, it's also Lagarde has it, she's still like, we're right. The rest of you don't understand what we're doing.
And
Where at least we've seen, some remorse out of, some of the folks in the U.S. who maybe didn't do it as well as they thought they should have, or we thought they
right,
should have.
Janet Yellen, she's gone in a few number of days, and
Yeah,
the fact that she moved all of our debt into the short term at the same time her former position at the Fed was raising rates is
yeah,
just beyond me that there was no coordination there. But
no,
if you look at Christine Lagarde, for your viewers, she was the Bank de France central bank chief. Then she went to the IMF and ran the IMF. And then she took this glorious pat in the back from the Europeans to run the ECB. She's a politician.
yep.
She's not in touch with the real world.
Yeah, you can't argue with that. It goes. Yeah, she's the epitome of what we have is some of the issues around the world when it comes, not just there, but we don't need. No offense to us who are already in those age groups, but the boomers shouldn't be running the digital transformation of the world.
Right.
um,
So what do we have? We have the dollar by default. We
yeah,
have Bitcoin because everybody's like, well, where am I? I
yeah.
I have so much in the dollar. Let me look at an alternative investment, and crypto or Bitcoin is jumping to everybody. And you're that's the offset right now that they're putting us on a path that there are no alternatives.
Well, and it's fun you say it because right there, what they don't, there isn't. I said this for years. There wasn't a better spokesperson for Bitcoin than Jerome Powell or Janet Yellen because they just, as they just talk down the dollar, and the economy, and you could see these things, and they just print money. It was like, okay, this is easy, and it really is. You're seeing it play out. You're seeing it play out. I don't know if you saw the article. Wall Street Journal did one where where do the skeptics sort of stand now? Jamie Dimon. We know he's huge into the world of blockchain technology. Still not quite a Bitcoin adopter yet. Says he doesn't own it. We know his family, his daughter does, and other people have come out in his family. Warren Buffett said he won't discuss Bitcoin till his next annual shareholders meeting. What that means, I don't know. But Bill Ackerman and Ray Dalio and a lot of these guys who were skeptics at the beginning coming out and saying, I wish now, even I was surprised by Mr. Citadel. Ken Griffin came out and said, yeah, how can I not have buyer's remorse? on something that's gone up this much. And number two, yeah, I do think that it's a hedge. And what I noticed was he called it digital gold also. So we're seeing more and more of that come back into play where people are calling it digital gold from the TradFi world.
But in order to see those gentlemen and the vast amount of investment resources that they are overseeing, you're going to have a government regulatory environment,
Oh
right?
yeah, absolutely.
Because it's going to take, one bank that goes all in on it because suddenly it's offsetting some loan exposure. And when the crypto space does blow at some point where it has a sell off and the bank technically goes under, and, just go back in history, this has happened in various asset classes, and they're going to need a bailout. And then what? Taxpayer funds are going to come in and bail out somebody in an unregulated field? Is
No, they
that
won't. I
possible?
mean, listen, that's where I say no, you're wrong. We've seen it already. Bitcoin went from 20 to 600, and it went 20,000 to 600, and it went from 70,000 to 30, and no one asked for a bailout. Nobody got a bailout, and I just hope that the new investors understand that that's what is in the world of crypto is that there are when you're buying 100 vol. Um, asset that you have to realize that that's the case. And I'd also go to, I'm with you when it comes to crypto. Bitcoin is fairly regulated by the SEC and the CFTC at this point. The ETFs hold such a big, I was talking to Steve about, there's been a big shift in the Bitcoin OGs that made all their billions already that are selling off at a huge amount right now into the hands of Michael Saylor and the retail traders at these ETFs. So there is a lot of there is a lot of regulation. There's a lot less of the Wild West because of BlackRock and BlackRock
I think
specifically.
I take issue with that, though, Howard. Market structure is still the wild, wild west. Market structure must have depth of market. It must be transparent. And while it is definitely much better than, as you say, the Wild West days of the field, it still lacks the fundamental structure that's required to get investment funds to move into that space.
Yeah, that's definitely the side of the world that I don't. I just point to Michael Saylor raises another $10 billion in about 30 minutes from another pension fund or another nation that's trying to get access to it that can't just buy Bitcoin because they don't know how to hold it on their
Right.
things. And that's what I just look at. And I see those calls. I see these family offices again that said they would never touch it. That now realize, and again, I'm not saying you should be putting 30% of your money into Bitcoin. But what you're seeing is people that hold trillions and trillions of dollars are saying, I'm going to put 1% into Bitcoin.
Right.
And that's a big move. Again, 4 years ago, you said we wouldn't exist today. And I don't mean you, but you know what I mean is, first they mocked us, then they made fun of us, then they tried to kill us, and now they're joining us. And that's where we're at. And if you look and that, yeah, I'm with you. I understand, and I don't expect, and I actually, and I follow the other side. I don't want to see certain things. I don't want to see that much. I like it better, a little bit of the Wild West. That's the intention of Bitcoin, to a point. I don't want to see it controlled completely by BlackRock and the United States government and the Chinese government because they're the ones that hold it all, because that defeats the purpose of what it's supposed to do. So we'll see how that plays out over the next,
Right.
few years. What I will say is there is no doubt that the Trump horde there is looking to make their mark in the world of finance through the use of cryptocurrencies and so forth to sort of usurp. They can't go buy JP Morgan, you know what I mean? But what they can do is try to create the next version of that comes out. And that's
And
what you're seeing. That's
right.
that's where it's at.
And
Um,
for full transparency, I've been involved in that market for the last 5 6 years. So it's not as if I'm talking somewhat negative. I've actually been involved in it. What I am just simply saying is that it needs more structure, and it is a space that you must be involved in some manner in understanding, because it is beginning to move more and more to the forefront.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, we saw, MicroStrategy, the Nasdaq 100, and that's what I mean about what's coming with that market structure. Again, BlackRock isn't going to play where there isn't where there's a risk that they're not going to put themselves at that risk, in my opinion. They might because of the outsized gains they're getting right now versus everybody else. But I
Well,
think
Howard,
what's
understand the power of being a market maker in a field like that.
Oh
Once
yeah, I
they're
mean we
ready,
saw it. It brought Jump Capital to the top, and others that wrote it the first time,
right?
and that's what they're realizing. BlackRock and that absolutely. But yeah, yeah, like I said, I see what you're saying, and here's what I'd say is they've made it clear, at least in the U.S., they won't allow any banks to do that. Like I guess so to me, there's the yes and no to it. Is you're right, but no one's going to be allowed to invest in the way that pension funds and these other big players can do until there is more regulation. They don't have
Right.
access to it right now. They don't buy it right now. They might buy IBIT because again, it's an SEC regulated ETF, so they have ways to hit it into their things. So I think it's an ABC type of thing. We're still at A, and B has to happen for them to come in, and we're not there yet. And we're going to be a while. And I still think that's why I still say it's very early. We're still
Yeah.
probably a year and a half till that comes into play. And
Yeah.
those guys get to play their game. What we've seen though is that there's a definite appetite for a new asset class. I mean, I think that's how I'd look at it. Is there's just
Well, I might even push back on that as an asset class. It could become, because of the nature of blockchain and the way it transacts, it could becoming a parallel system to the $7.5 trillion currency market. It's very possible that there's some sort of intersection
well, that's
of
what I
these.
think. There'll be some uses of the systems, the blockchain systems. Again, remember, I always separate Bitcoin from crypto and Bitcoin from blockchain. It is the only one in a class of its own. And the reason being is that it was created without the VC capital that will take advantage of any new coin that's built. There is no
Right.
doubt. We've seen it Anderson Horowitz. I mean, look what they've made over what they've done. They were a flailing, they were great, then they were flailing, and now they're at the top of the world because of their move into that area in Silicon Valley. But blockchain technology, yeah, I do think without a doubt you'll see it affect how trading is done there, but that's the technology there. The tech stack behind it, I think, will be integrated into Forex very probably earlier than into stock trading and bond trading, quite honestly. Although we've
Yeah.
seen it a lot in bond trading already. They're doing a lot of treasury issues in Europe and Switzerland, especially, are getting done on blockchain because it's
Right.
easy. It works. It does. But that's a tech stack to me where Bitcoin is trying to be something else. That's the only
Yeah.
thing that I would say there. They're very different. Anything you have for us before we take off here today else that I've missed on there? I think I hit my major parts.
Well, I just wanted to again point out Dollar-MEX is roughly around 2018. It's a 10% interest rate. If you look at a chart in Dollar-MEX, you can see this topping formation straight across. I, urge viewers to keep something up on that because when you begin to look at the Dollar-MEX at 10%, it becomes an offset to a world that's lowering interest rates. I think that the dollar is still in play until we see the Dollar-MEX break a 20.03, which to me then is a massive signal that the tectonic plates are changing.
Okay, and I still have that marked from our last conversation.
Right.
Still holding that 50-day MA a little bit. We'll see
Yes, you do. Yep.
if it breaks below that. I think that's where you're going to see that the waterfall start.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Mr. Flanagan, like always, for
Yeah.
joining us. And we will see you again Wednesday for Quasar Markets Live. I am back at 12 o'clock with Agnieszka Woods to go over our trading mindset coach. And then we're back at 1 o'clock with Scott Bauer and the folks from Prosper Trading Academy. Thank you.